He never needed Hollywood to prove his talent, but Hollywood needed him to remember what true art really is. This is Mads Mikkelsen, the actor who defies the system, ignores conventions, and turns every role into a silent declaration of power. From unforgettable villains to performances that make the industry itself uncomfortable, Mikkelsen stands as a rare symbol of resistance in an era of superficiality. But behind the cold gaze and enigmatic charm lies a story marked by rejections, criticism, and decisions that nearly destroyed his career, and that now place him among the most respected and feared names in cinema. In this video, you'll discover what really happened when Mads faced Hollywood, what he refused to accept, and why many consider him one of the last truly authentic artists of our time. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps YouTube understand that our content deserves to be seen by more people and allows us to keep bringing you stories no one else dares to tell. If you can support the channel even more, use the Super Thanks feature. Your help makes all the difference. And if not, drop a comment below telling us what surprised you most about Mikkelsen. Stay until the end, because the final revelation will leave you completely stunned. Mads Mikkelsen, an artist who learned to navigate a system ruled by superficiality without ever losing his essence. In an industry that often rewards those who adapt, he stands as a living example of someone who chose to remain loyal to art, even if it meant swimming against the current. From the very beginning of his career, Mads was never the typical Hollywood product. He wasn't born under spotlights, nor did he shape his image to fit the expectations of a market that values spectacle over truth. Before becoming an actor, he was a dancer and an athlete, a fact that says a lot about his discipline and his relationship with body and movement, a sensitivity that would later become a hallmark of his performances, physical, intense, and almost choreographed. When he finally turned to acting, it wasn't in search of fame or fortune, but of meaning. And it was precisely that choice that made him something rare, an artist who doesn't belong anywhere, yet is respected everywhere. While many actors dream of conquering Hollywood, Mikkelsen seems to have done the opposite. He started in Denmark, building his reputation through auteur films, raw, intense, often dark, where the goal was not to please the audience, but to explore human truth in its most unfiltered forms. He worked with directors like Nicholas Winding Refn Pusher, which introduced him as a tough, cold face capable of expressing deep vulnerability with just a glance. That combination of strength and fragility caught the world's attention, but unlike so many others who used European fame as a springboard to Hollywood, Mikkelsen never rushed to fit in. He waited for the right moment, or perhaps he didn't wait at all. He simply kept doing what he loved. When he finally entered international productions, he didn't allow himself to be transformed by them. In Casino Royale, his role as the villain Lucifer could easily have been the beginning of a typical Hollywood career. Cartoonish villains, repetitive roles, million-dollar contracts, and little depth. But Mads refused to follow that path. Every character he accepted afterwards seemed to come with an essential question. Does this have something to say? That conscious choice made him unpredictable, but deeply respected. He could be the elegant cannibal Hannibal Lecter in a cult TV series, a silent warrior in Valhalla Rising, or a teacher unjustly accused in The Hunt, one of the most devastating performances of the decade. In each of them, Mikkelsen brought something Hollywood often tries to erase: imperfection. He represents the kind of artist who understands that true strength lies not in pleasing the audience, but in confronting it. Over the years, Mads has become a symbol of silent resistance, someone who doesn't need to shout to be heard. He rarely seeks the spotlight on red carpets, avoids scandals to gain relevance, and keeps his personal life far from headlines. This distance from spectacle makes him almost mythical, a man who exists within the industry, but is not a part of it. When he speaks, his words are measured, direct, and laced with irony, as if constantly reminding the public that fame is just a game he never wanted to play. This attitude has earned him something few artists achieve: respect on every level. Critics see him as both technically and emotionally sophisticated. Fans admire him for his authenticity, and his peers regard him as someone who makes everything look effortless. But the secret lies precisely in his refusal to follow formulas. Mads chooses projects that challenge him, not ones that comfort him. He understands that every role should leave a scar, should teach him something new about the human condition. Perhaps that's why, even when he plays dark or morally complex characters, there's always something profoundly human about them. A pain, an inner conflict, a contradiction the audience recognizes as truth. What's most impressive, however, is how he balances this artistic depth with an almost disarming humility. Mikkelsen doesn't see himself as a genius or a rebel. He simply believes cinema should be made with purpose, not haste. That philosophy reflects in everything he does. Instead of chasing trends or franchises, he allows himself to disappear for a while, return to Denmark, work with independent directors, and only then re-emerge on the global stage. It's a careful dance between anonymity and stardom, between control and surrender. In a world where success is measured in followers and box office numbers, Mads Mikkelsen redefines what it means to win. For him, winning is staying curious, reinventing himself without losing his core. He has said in interviews that he never wants to play the same role twice, because that would be a form of creative death. That phrase perfectly sums up his journey. Mads is not afraid to fail. He's afraid to repeat himself. His career is proof that it's possible to live for art without surrendering to fame, and that even within a system built on spectacle, there is still room for authenticity. He is the kind of actor who doesn't need the world to understand him, only to feel him. And perhaps that's precisely why, in the end, Mads Mikkelsen has become one of the most respected and enigmatic figures in contemporary cinema, because he never wanted to be a star. He always wanted to be true. Mads Mikkelsen never sought to be the center of attention, yet he became a symbol of integrity and resistance within an industry that constantly tries to mold its artists into disposable products. Behind every role, every intense gaze, and every silence heavy with meaning lies a journey marked by difficult choices and an unshakable faith in art as a form of truth. The price of greatness for Mikkelsen has never been measured in money, awards, or status, but in courage, solitude, and authenticity. From the very beginning of his career, he understood that the path of true art is almost always a lonely one. He became a master of capturing silence, of transforming what is unsaid into something deafening. This talent for expressing pain, ambiguity, and vulnerability without needing words became his signature, but also, for a time, his cage, for Hollywood doesn't know how to deal with subtlety. For years, he was labeled too European, too restrained, too serious, words that, though disguised as compliments, were in truth forms of rejection. Hollywood wanted recognizable faces, marketable smiles, and easy-to-digest stories. Mikkelsen offered the opposite: mystery, complexity, and humanity. Yet, time ultimately worked in his favor. Unlike so many actors who become prisoners of a single success, Mads followed his own path, refusing to be reduced to a caricature. He knew that easy success comes at a high cost, and he chose to pay a different one: the price of patience. Throughout his journey, silence has been both his weapon and his armor. While others sought exposure, he sought depth. Mikkelsen understands that silence is a powerful language, that often truth lives in what is left unsaid. This mastery of silence extends to his personal life as well. Discreet, averse to scandals and rehearsed interviews, he preserves a sense of mystery that sets him apart in a world where everything must be shown and explained. The paradox is that the quieter he becomes, the more his presence resonates. The audience senses something real behind the image, something not crafted by a marketing team. Rejection, however, was an inevitable part of his path. For a long time, the world simply didn't know what to do with Mads Mikkelsen. He was seen as too good for some roles and unsuitable for others. This ambiguity, which could have destroyed an ordinary actor, only strengthened him. He used every rejection as a reminder that he didn't need external validation to keep creating. Instead of shaping himself to fit the system, he forced the system to adapt to him. Gradually, his authenticity began to be recognized as something valuable, a rarity in a market saturated with formulas. The same industry that once overlooked him began to treat him as a benchmark of artistic integrity. And this is where his triumph lies, not the loud kind, filled with awards and emotional speeches, but the quiet triumph of someone who won without ever bowing down. Mads Mikkelsen achieved something that few artists ever do: universal respect. He has become synonymous with credibility. Every time he appears in a new film, the audience already knows that there is something worth paying attention to. And curiously, his success never feels manufactured. He doesn't chase stardom. Stardom seems to chase him. His triumph is the direct result of his refusal to give in. He is a reminder that greatness is rarely immediate. It is built slowly, through years of conscious choices, and the courage to remain true to oneself, even when everything around tries to corrupt. The price he paid for that greatness, however, is visible to those who look closely. There is an inherent loneliness in his journey. Mads belongs to a lineage of artists who live on the edge between recognition and isolation. He is admired by millions but understood by few. His approach to acting is so intense that it seems to consume something within him with every role, a piece of his soul, a fragment of his mind, a memory that doesn't return. Still, he seems to accept this cost with serenity, as the fair price of artistic honesty. Behind the scenes, Mikkelsen is known for his impeccable work ethic and peculiar sense of humor. He treats everyone with respect, from the director to the production assistant, yet never places himself on a pedestal. He often says that cinema is a collective effort, that an actor without a good team is just a voice lost in the void. This humble perspective keeps him grounded, far from the trap of ego, a mortal enemy for anyone seeking truth in art. And that's why, even after so much success, he continues to seek his next challenge with the same curiosity as a beginner. The price of greatness, silence, rejection, and triumph is, at its core, a meditation on what it means to stay true to oneself in a world that rewards superficiality. His story shows us that greatness is not a state but a process, a path filled with doubts, falls, and new beginnings. His silence is strength, his rejection is a lesson, and his triumph is the natural consequence. He teaches us that not every victory has to be loud to be grand. Sometimes true power lies in staying quiet when everyone else is shouting, in standing firm when others give up, and in making art when the world only wants entertainment. In a time when so many sell their convictions for a moment of fame, Mikkelsen proves that authenticity still matters. His journey reminds us that talent, when guided by purpose, always finds its place, even if it takes time. He never had to reinvent himself to fit into the system. He simply waited until the system bent to him. Although the Hollywood system is a sophisticated, invisible, and relentless organism, it does not impose chains of iron but rather rules, contracts, aesthetic standards, and predictable narratives. It promises fame and recognition but demands conformity and obedience. It is a universe that turns artists into brands and emotions into products. And within this landscape, Mads Mikkelsen emerged as an anomaly, someone who doesn't quite fit in, yet doesn't openly oppose it either. He simply exists on his own terms. And that existence alone is a form of rebellion. Mads Mikkelsen is a man who, without ever waving flags or proclaiming revolutions, has managed to challenge one of the most powerful and standardized industries in the world, Hollywood, and remain whole. There is something deeply inspiring about his path. He is the kind of rebel who doesn't need to shout to be heard. He acts silently, subtly, and precisely because of that, he is far more dangerous to the system. While many adapt in order to survive, Mikkelsen does the opposite. He remains true to his essence, and the world around him ends up bending to the strength of his authenticity. This is the rebel within, the one who does not fight against others, but against the expectations that try to imprison his art. Mads is not the kind of actor who seeks total control over his image. In fact, he seems to take pleasure in creative chaos. He believes cinema is built on risk, and that an artist who doesn't take risks is dead inside. That belief puts him in direct contrast to Hollywood logic, where every move is calculated and every decision goes through the filter of profitability. While others think about contracts and franchises, Mikkelsen thinks about characters that make him feel something real. That's why he can play a sophisticated cannibal in Hannibal, and shortly after, a teacher falsely accused in The Hunt, without ever losing his inner coherence. To him, the role is merely the means, the truth is the end. But being a rebel in Hollywood is not a simple choice. The system tries to mold you in subtle ways, through the pressure for visibility, the seduction of money, and the illusion of relevance. Mads has spoken about how he turned down numerous offers because he saw no artistic meaning in them. For many, that would be madness. For him, it's freedom. This refusal to sell out is what sets him apart. He understands that every decision defines not only his career, but who he is as an artist. In that sense, Mikkelsen is perhaps one of the last romantics in cinema, someone who still believes that the value of a work lies in its emotional impact, not in its box office numbers. His inner rebellion does not manifest in fiery speeches or scandalous gestures, but in subtle choices that accumulate meaning. He prefers to work with auteur directors, even if the budget is small, because he knows that what truly matters is creative connection. He doesn't care about a film's genre or the language he speaks. He's acted in Danish, English, French, and even Icelandic, because he sees art as a universal language. This fluidity is a form of resistance, a way of escaping the boxes Hollywood tries to impose. And what's most fascinating is that Mads never seems to be at war with the system. He doesn't reject it entirely, he simply refuses to be defined by it. That distinction is crucial. He can appear in massive productions like Doctor Strange or Indiana Jones and The Dial of Destiny, yet even in those roles, there's always something distinctly his, a nuance that separates him from the stereotype. It's as if, silently, he injects humanity into the mechanical structures of the blockbuster. He doesn't destroy the chains, he weakens them from within. This posture has made him a rare symbol, that of an artist who can move between independent and commercial cinema without losing his soul. Mads stands as proof that it's possible to belong to the system without becoming its prisoner. He maintains a quiet life, far from the excesses of fame, and lives in Copenhagen, not Los Angeles. There he remains connected to his roots, to the culture that shaped him, and to the simplicity that keeps him grounded. That decision to stay close to home is more than a matter of comfort, it's a form of resistance. It's a reminder that success doesn't have to come with emotional exile. Yet there is a deeper layer to his rebellion. Mikkelsen challenges not only the structures of the industry, but also the standards of masculinity it reinforces. In an environment where the hero is almost always an invincible, impenetrable figure, Mads chooses to portray men who are fragile, broken, morally ambiguous. He brings humanity to characters that could easily become caricatures. In doing so, he deconstructs the idealized image of manhood and shows that vulnerability is also strength. This sensitivity is an essential part of his rebellion, the refusal to portray man as a symbol of power, but as a human being in constant conflict. Over the years, audiences have come to recognize this pattern in his performances. There is something profoundly human in every character he creates, something that transcends a script. His silences speak as loudly as his words. His screen presence has a gravity that cannot be taught. It's as if he carries a truth that the audience instinctively feels, even without fully understanding it. And perhaps that's what makes Mads Mikkelsen so fascinating. He reminds us of what cinema once was before it became an industry, a space of emotion, risk, and imperfection. The rebel within Mikkelsen is also present in his view of success. He has said that he doesn't believe in linear careers and that failure is an essential part of evolution. That mindset protects him from the traps of vanity. He understands that success can be just as destructive as failure if it makes an artist lose curiosity. That's why Mads continues to seek roles that push him out of his comfort zone, that challenge him emotionally and make him feel vulnerable. He doesn't want to master art, he wants to keep being challenged by it. Hollywood, with its invisible chains, tries to turn artists into products. But Mikkelsen is living proof that art can still be an act of freedom. He doesn't need to rebel loudly because his very existence is an act of rebellion. Every time he chooses a non-commercial role, every time he turns down $1 million project to make a small, intimate film, he breaks the chains. And what's most beautiful is that he does it naturally without heroics. It's simply who he is. Mads Mikkelsen never had to fight Hollywood with weapons or speeches. He disarmed it with authenticity, talent, and silence. He reminds us that the most transformative power is not the one that seeks to dominate, but the one that seeks to inspire. Yet the rebel within Mikkelsen is not a destroyer, he is a creator. He doesn't want to tear Hollywood down, he wants to remind it why it exists, to tell stories that touch the soul. His rebellion is the flame that keeps art alive in a time when so many prefer the hollow glow of fame. And perhaps that's why Mads Mikkelsen, without ever asking for it, has become the symbol of a generation that still believes cinema can be more than entertainment. It can be truth. Mikkelsen built a legacy not through noise, but through silence, not through self-promotion, but through genuine devotion to art. In an era where the film industry has become a marketing machine, where image often weighs more than talent, Mikkelsen stands as a fascinating paradox. His legacy is proof that true talent doesn't need to shout, it echoes. From the beginning, Mads never followed the script Hollywood tends to impose on its stars. He didn't build his career around fame, nor did he worry about crafting a flawless image for the cameras. On the contrary, he chose the harder paths, often immersing himself in independent and auteur-driven films that few dared to make. This choice placed him on the margins of most lucrative circuit, but it also gave him something few ever achieve: creative freedom. He never wanted to be the actor everyone loved. He wanted to be the actor everyone respected. And with time, he achieved both, without ever betraying his essence. Mikkelsen's talent transcends language and borders. He is one of those artists who don't need many words to convey complex emotions. A single glance from him can carry an entire story. His expression is a universal language, understood by anyone from any culture. That ability to speak without speaking is what makes him so unique. It's as if he understands something many actors forget. Cinema isn't about saying, it's about feeling. And Mads, with his magnetic yet restrained presence, makes audiences feel every nuance of his characters. But perhaps the most impressive thing is how he built this reputation on his own terms, far from the traditional rules of the industry. Mikkelsen is the kind of actor who moves between European and American cinema with the same ease with which he switches languages. He can be the elegant villain in Casino Royale, the enigmatic cannibal in Hannibal, or the unjustly accused teacher in The Hunt, and in all these roles, there's an invisible thread that connects them: authenticity. None of them feel performed, they feel lived. That's why his work carries a depth that endures over time, because there's no artifice, only truth. The title Legacy in Shadows captures this perfectly, the legacy Mikkelsen builds without needing to stand in the spotlight. He is the opposite of the traditional star who thrives on public appearances and rehearsed statements. His presence is discreet yet striking. He doesn't aim to be everywhere, only where he's meant to be. That's why, when he does appear, people pay attention. There's an aura of mystery around him, not manufactured but natural. He always seems slightly out of reach, and perhaps that's exactly what makes him so magnetic. Hollywood, with its industrial logic, often tries to turn artists into products, but Mikkelsen escapes that trap with grace. He plays the game when he wants to, but never lets the game define him. He has worked with major studios, yes, but he has also remained loyal to the Danish and European productions that shaped him. While many actors abandon their roots to conquer the American market, Mikkelsen did the opposite. He brought his identity into Hollywood. He didn't become Americanized. He made Hollywood bow to his European authenticity. That stance has made him a symbol of something greater, silent resistance. He is a reminder that real talent doesn't need to adapt to survive. When the industry ignores him, he creates. When the system rejects him, he waits. Mads is patient, and that patience is his most powerful weapon. Because in the end, time always favors those who are true. Today, while many names rise and fall with the speed of an internet trend, the name Mads Mikkelsen continues to grow quietly, like a tree that doesn't need applause to bloom. His legacy isn't just in the characters he's portrayed, but in the way he chose to live them. In every performance, there's a fragment of his life philosophy. The belief that art must have purpose, and that success should be a consequence, not a goal. He's an actor who respects silence, space, and timing in a scene, and that sensitivity sets him apart in a world obsessed with speed and intensity. Mikkelsen understands that greatness lies in restraint, not excess. He doesn't need to force anything. His mere presence fills the screen. Another aspect that makes his legacy so unique is his relationship with failure. Mads doesn't fear it. He sees mistakes as part of the creative process. He prefers to take risks on something authentic rather than repeat safe formulas. That mindset keeps him alive as an artist and protects him from stagnation. He doesn't seek the comfort of success. He seeks the discomfort of discovery. That impulse drives him to take on challenging roles, often in small but artistically powerful films. And it's there, in the shadows of those quiet projects, that he leaves his deepest mark. When talent speaks louder than the industry, isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a truth proven by Mikkelsen's journey. He is living proof that authenticity, consistency, and respect for art can outshine any marketing machine. While many depend on the noise of fame, Mads depends solely on the strength of his work. He doesn't need to convince anyone he's great. You only need to watch him act to understand. That's the kind of power no publicity campaign can fabricate. Ultimately, Mikkelsen's legacy is also an invitation to reflect. How much does the industry dictate what talent is? How many brilliant artists are overshadowed simply because they refuse to fit the mold? Mads is living proof that it's still possible to win without selling out, that there's still room for those who prefer the honest path, even if it's slower. He shows that the true impact of an artist isn't in the number of films or awards, but in the intensity with which he touches people.